Hi, I'm Bill Doherty, and I want to welcome the viewers to another edition of Bill's Bullpen. Bill's Bullpen is a program designed to give people an idea what's going on both locally and in the region, and sort of keep us up to date as to what's happening around us. Today I have Lauren, who is going to tell us about what she does, which is kind of interesting because I wonder how many people are actually doing that. Lauren, what do you do?
That is a loaded question, but my ultimate goal is to bring the community together and basically helping people reignite or discover their joy. I do this in forms of art, music, storytelling, just kind of facilitating an environment where people can come together for no other reason but joy.
Wow. How did you get involved in this?
So it's always been a passion of mine, but it really came from dealing with my own mental health issues and trauma from childhood.
Mm-hmm.
I was a preschool teacher for 16 years,
What?
a preschool teacher,
Oh, preschool teacher, okay.
specializing with children who deal with trauma in everyday life, because it still goes on, and specializing with children with disabilities, as myself has deafness. So.
Well, I have a daughter that's a social worker, and she indeed would reinforce exactly what you said.
Yep.
That you go, perhaps the best therapy of dealing with your own problems is helping other people. And of course, in the education that I've had, it was always, it was more, we are put here to be a person for others. And when we're doing that, we can find true happiness. And that was reinforced by, by my pastor, saying that if you want to be happy, help other people.
Yeah, and
So-
that was honestly, that has been, ever since I moved to America, I have just
Move to America?
Yeah.
May I see your green card?
I do have one of those. I hope it's not expired. Yeah, so I'm actually from England.
Okay.
I was born and raised there. I lived in Geneva, Switzerland for 2 years. And then I moved here. I was supposed to move here September 13th, *01. And like many people, we all remember that day, 9/11, and we were boarded for 2 weeks in Switzerland before we were allowed to fly here. And ever since I've been here, I have just had that desire to help people. And someone said to me once that the fakest kind of people are the ones that are always trying to be kind. And I thought for myself, in that case, I want to be the fakest kind of person every single day, because my natural gift is to help other people, and it's not something that I put on. It is just something that I do. And I think a lot of us can do that. We just don't know how to start. So for me, unfortunately, it started in a really dark time. I had to leave my teaching career behind and kind of figure out, okay, how am I going to do this? How am I going to continue to give to others when I myself was such a mess? So I've spent the last 3 years of really turning that around, healing myself, and now I am in the place where I can give that back to others and, spread that joy.
No, I did have some experience in dealing with with kids with special needs because I was a substitute teacher for many years.
Yeah.
And of course, I was at the at several schools on Cape Cod, and I found that a lot of kids with special needs were very needy. Okay, and part of it was just having somebody that would sit down and talk to them, or listen to them. And that's so important. Now, when you were growing up, you grew up in a different country.
Yeah.
Okay, and you've now taught in this country. Okay, what did you see as the differences between when you were growing up, as far as what was available to you, what made kids happy, versus what you see here?
That's actually a really good question. No one's actually asked me that before, and it has a huge impact on why I'm doing what I'm doing now. I have my own reasons why I couldn't get into the public schools. I'm not a test taker. I always struggled with learning myself, so I have that compassion for people that struggle learning. And so I had to figure out how I was going to do it in my own way. And taking everything I learned as a child and what I did in the day and listening to what is missing here and what parents and teachers are voicing, I want to bring that back. And the difference is the arts, the home economics, the social interactions, and all the things that we thought was meaningless are actually the most crucial things that our children need. And not just our children, adults too. If adults can take a moment to start finding things that bring them joy, they then feed off of that. And they want to do it more and more, and then they want to spread that to other people. And so that's how it happens. It's the smallest things, it really is.
I couldn't agree with you more about the home economics, because I used to supervise the home economists at Boston Edison Company, a local utility.
Yeah.
And I found that one of the most satisfying things that we do with other people is share a meal, and the ability to make a meal is very crucial.
Yeah.
Your last name being DeGregorio, indicates that you had some exposure to Italian life.
Yes.
And in Italian life, it's always mangiare,
Yeah.
mangiare. It's always eat, you sit down. I remember dealing with my grandmother as an adult. When I went to her house, and I had to go on a regular basis, otherwise no respect. I would always go immediately to the refrigerator, put a piece of food in my hand, and say, "Look, Nana," he said, I'm eating,
Eating.
okay.
My husband would have a lot of good stories with you, because every Sunday, South Boston, he had to go to Grandma's house, and it was food. You had to eat.
It's interesting you say South Boston, because that always surprised me, because South Boston is identified as an Irish area, and I knew a lot of Italians in
Oh, we
South
knew.
Boston.
Yeah. He's got all the stories to tell. It's very interesting. But that, again, it's cultural awareness. And just because you are American or you live in America, we are a country full of people from across the world. And so we have to embrace that and learn about others to basically just keep an open mind. We are all different. We're all different. We all have different experiences. And yeah, the cooking is one that was really important in writing a check and changing a tire. So I want to be able to offer these things that, one, we don't have in town. I can't do it by myself.
Okay, well, what are the things that we don't have in town?
Well, we don't have the home economics opportunities. When they got rid of the arts and those things from the schools, it became more of a parent should be teaching their children. But in today's society, we know that's not the case either, because parents are working 1, 2, 3 jobs around the clock and raising children.
Well, that's something that I was made aware of, because it seems like there were a lot of part-time job opportunities, which translated into no benefits, and as a result, parents would come home and say to the kid, "You got all your work done?" And kid, "Oh yeah, right.
Oh yeah.
We got that covered." And then they would be called into school, and they would basically have an enormous amount of guilt about the fact that they had not been available to their children, even though it was to put food on the table and a roof over their heads, that they would support the kid. And as a result, the warnings that were being given by the teachers were not just ignored, but resented.
Yeah.
Because nobody wants to hear bad things about their kids.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you need to pay attention to those things, in order to go forward. Now, when you were in special needs, did you get exposed to some of these parents?
So it was more dealing with the parents of children that are going through trauma that I think affected me the most, because you have to remain that certain professionalism when you're a teacher. So
how do you define professionalism?
So when you have a 3-year-old that comes to you and says, "Mommy's boyfriend punched me in the face last night."
But you're a designated, what do you call it? There's a word for a reporter. You're a designated reporter.
Yeah.
So you have to report that.
You do. And I was on the phone with DCF almost every day. It was a part of my job. But at the same time, there's only so much that can come from that, and those parents still pick up the children at the end of the day, and they still drop off the next day, even though all these things are going on. You can't just make miracles happen overnight.
Are you familiar with Children's Cove?
Yes.
Okay, well,
Yep.
that was one of the things that when I was a county commissioner, that I would go do a dog and pony show at the different towns,
Yep.
and they'd say, well, that stuff doesn't happen here, and I'd give them the statistics, and they were
wrong.
amazed, or at least they feigned being amazed.
Yep.
I had the feeling that some of them were actually involved, but that's that's another story. Okay, so we now have all of these things that are traumatizing children, and the so-called myth of having that happy childhood sort of dissolves for some people. And I had seen it because I had substituted in several systems, and I would see kids that had been moved from one system to another because of housing and because of what I call the psychopathology of everyday life.
Yeah.
Okay, now, how are you bringing joy to this community?
So after having kind of realization 3 years ago, when I was in a really dark place, I finally got the help I needed just before the world shut down. I do attribute my daily practices of success to partially medication, but also because I am now aware of why things are the way they are, and I'm taking those steps daily and actively to not let myself go back there. So instead of stepping outside and looking at everything in a negative light, which we all tend to do because we have clouded judgment, I now try to step out and appreciate all the little things. Like, you can really find joy in the smallest of things, and if that's what you're constantly looking for, you just become this more joyful energy. And why not share it? Like, if I can go from what I've come from to where I am today, why not share that?
Well, there's the existentialists would certainly agree with you that you choose the mood and the attitude that you have.
It's not easy. It's not easy, but you do choose it. You do choose it.
I need to write this down. I've never heard this before.
Right? It's new information.
Oh yeah, right. Okay, so although we recognize that it's difficult, let's say to establish not only our mood, but let's say our consistency in maintaining that mood, how do what are some of the strategies that you use to do, let's say to do exactly that?
Honestly, a lot of it attributed to cutting back on social media. Had to get off of those aspects of just scrolling.
But some of you might say something I want to hear. How can I miss out on that?
Yeah, fear of missing out. No. And I've actually become really engaged in what I can do every day. So every day I'm spending my time focusing on how I can be a better person and what I can project out into the world, and just keeping myself busy with art and connecting with other people. So the collaborative part of this is it's not me who makes myself happy. It is seeing what it does to other people. And so when you see the benefits and the inspiration that you can give to other people, and they, will be like, hey, you know what? That really touched me in a way.
We ought to get
What
now
can I
into
do to
kind
help?
of the specifics of how you do this.
Yeah, and it's like, what can I do to help you? And now I have a little bit more support, and a little bit more support, and now I have this whole community of people that want to support me, and my goal of bringing joy and the community together. And so it's just hopefully snowballing into this positive effect. For our
Organization is the key to effective performance.
Sure is.
Everybody knows that.
Yeah.
What is your organization?
So, which one? I have my own business, O Places Spaces.
What is it?
O Places Spaces.
Oh, Places, Spaces.
Yes,
Okay.
and the term O Places comes from Life is Good. The brand Life is Good, and I am a Life is Good playmaker. So I have been training with Life is Good for about 12 years on working with children with trauma. Surprise! And they have always instilled to create an oasis-type play space in your classroom. O Places.
No, we all understand Oasis is a place of, let's say, of comfort and security in a desert. Okay, how was that created in a classroom?
So they basically had us brainstorm that. How do you bring that tranquility and nurturing into a classroom? Do we have to just go on vacation? No. So
Vacations can be very troubling times.
no kidding, and it's actually becoming more stressful to go on a vacation, that you need a vacation after the vacation. So in my classroom, I set up a teepee with twinkly lights, some pillows, and books. And when a child was feeling overwhelmed or unregulated, and most people jump to the conclusion and say bad, they're not. They're acting out because they need to regulate themselves.
And the other piece is that school can perhaps be the only safe place that they can act out and express those feelings.
Yeah.
And I don't think that people really appreciate the fact that when kids are acting out in school, it's because they're not going to get the crap kicked out of them that would happen if they were home.
Right. And so when my kids were at the point of overregulated and just needed to take a step out, that was when they could go sit in the teepee. It wasn't a form of punishment or a timeout. It was a form of, hey, you know what? Sometimes I got to regulate myself too. Go take a minute. Enjoy your time in the Oasis. When you're ready to join us, which is only when you're ready to learn, right? You can't learn if you're not mentally prepared. And that is the same for adults. So when I left the teaching field, I was like, okay, I need my own Oasis. And I started creating it in my garden. I started by making a little pallet swing, adding some flowers, nothing costly, because I don't have money in that way. But I created my own Oasis those 3 years ago. And that was when the joy just kept.
So are you offering this as part of your part of what you're doing?
Yeah, so Oasis Spaces, I am an artist, I am a face painter, and a joy seeker. I have offered my garden for people to just come and chat and chill. We talk about everyday life, no judgment, and it just basically gives people a place to chill and talk without the walls. And then the other part of it too is like for Halloween. We are creating this extravagant walkthrough for kids for no other reason than joy, and I just want to invite people to that.
Talk a little bit more about this, about this walkthrough for joy. What is in it?
Okay, so Buzzards Bay Recreation is having the trunk or treat tonight.
Well, yeah, I did know that. I'm a trustee of the community center.
Of course you are.
Yeah.
So we're actually going to be set up there. We have an entire Beetlejuice theme that has been made out of newspaper donated by the community, and foam and spray foam. The cheapest things to create this big lavish walkthrough full of 6-foot props, just to bring joy. So we're going to have it at the community center, and then we'll have it at our house for Halloween.
So this goes by after a while. How do people connect with you on a regular basis?
So I am on Facebook, I am on Instagram, TikTok,
and what are you on Facebook?
Apparently I am a rising creator on Facebook.
What does that mean?
They are recognizing the videos that I'm putting out, and connecting the community. So it basically just boosts your business in the algorithm, which is good for exposure. Like I said, the goal out of all of this is just bringing people together and basically helping people be the best versions of themselves.
That's an interesting concept, because that's something that I think people have a certain amount of ego that says, I'm already the best version of myself. So, how do we get past that?
And that's part of the problem, because we actually can learn so much from others. I will never say that I am the best at anything. I can be good at a multitude of things, but there's always areas of weakness, and there's always areas of strength.
Well, I have a favorite poster. It's a cat and a dog together saying we have much to learn from our differences.
And that's what it is. You just have to remain an open mind. And I spent 16 years not teaching kids, but learning from kids. It was the kids' behaviors and the challenges and the rewards that taught me in how to be a better person myself. And there's no greater gift than that.
I don't think so. Or I still don't, I'm not clear on how you say, you're concerned about the affect of social media, and you're on Facebook.
Yes.
What else are you on?
So that was a tough one, actually. I was about to shut down all social media right before I launched this business. But you can't bring a community together if you're not on the platforms. So I do not scroll and get caught up in all the things. I only focus on business-related things, if you will, that help
Like what?
people come together. So Thriller Flash Mob we were going to have recently.
I didn't. Well, what was that? I guess I didn't know about that.
No, that's okay. I'm here to share it all.
Okay.
So last year I hosted a Thriller Flash Mob. I collaborated with a dance studio, Studio 721 and Center Stage Dance Academy. They choreographed the dance Thriller. We used social media to put that out there on YouTube. People could learn the dance at home. They had about a month to learn the dance, and then we all showed up at Buzzards Bay Park. We did the dance, we did a costume parade, and then we did Main Street trick-or-treating.
Oh, wow.
And I didn't do it to make money, because there's no money to be made out of something like that. There was no gain other than bringing the community together and joy. So it had a really positive impact. About 300 people showed up on the first event.
That's amazing.
We were anticipating close to 1,000 this year, but we got rained out, so we'll do it again next year.
Well, weather has to cooperate.
It does.
Again, I guess I'm still not clear on how to identify your company.
So, Places Spaces, I do have a
Places,
website.
Spaces, okay.
Yeah.
And you have a website.
I have a website,
Okay.
oplacesspaces.com.
Okay.
That's where you'll find my art-related stuff and my face painting.
Oh yeah, because that's the first thing I was told about was your face painting
Yep,
and
yep.
art-related stuff. I found that when I was substitute teaching, that many kids were inarticulate as far as being able to write down or speak to what was going on in their mind, but they were articulate in terms of drawing a picture and showing that relationship. And God forbid that you turn your back and you left the blackboard open and they would go up there and start drawing pictures.
Yeah.
And I found in my own experience that the neediest kids were the ones that were doing most of the drawing.
Right, because that's their way of communicating. Like, art is so much more important than just saying art. If you like reading books, you like listening to music, you like watching TV, then you like the arts. And that's why it is so important that we bring it back into our school systems full force, because when kids have that outlet and that little bit of joy, we are raising more successful, happy adults that know how to regulate themselves.
Do you connect with any of the art museums here in the Cape?
I'm actually starting to connect with a lot of different organizations, the libraries, the museums, any outreach programs that want to work with children in the community. Again, this isn't just kids. The whole purpose of this mission is to reach out to adults as well. Art classes, workshops.
Last night, when I was coming out of my own meeting, there was an organization called Family Paint. Are you familiar with them?
No, that one I'm not.
Well, there were people in one of the rooms in the community center that were basically painting.
Yep.
And I guess they had some, not supervision, but but oversight from people that were in there.
Yeah.
And when I looked in the windows, some of them were quite good. Some of them were like, believe it or not, I went to art school for a while and discovered I had zero talent, but I still went. And I found that you do learn a lot just from the aspect of, in order to be an artist, you have to be a good observer of what's going on. And I think you probably discovered that in your own practice.
Well, what's really funny is I never went to art school, and I don't have any art background. I did not realize how important art was correlated to mental health until I started dabbling in it myself. And so when I started, I was terrible too. Like, I never thought I could do it, and they came out terrible. But the more I practiced over the past 3 years, just 3 years, I've gotten to where I am. And it's basically taught me that you can't tell me you're not creative or you're not an artist. You just haven't practiced with different tools and found something that you like yet. So it just takes, it's all science, and it's experimenting, and it's finding what works and what you enjoy.
Okay, well, let's make sure that we covered all of the areas that you're working in.
Yeah.
We've got, let's see, contact, you've got activities, you have art. We already talked about how important it is to know how to cook, because sharing meals is very important. Is there anything else that's part of this?
Yeah, so I think the biggest thing now, we just launched Bourne Youth Council, relaunched Bourne Youth Council. Maybe you're familiar with it. This program started in 1994. Unfortunately, during COVID, we lost 2 out of the 3 board members, and so we were set to dissolve. And Leona Bombashi reached out and was like, hey, I've been watching what you're doing. I think you'd be a great fit to relaunch this. What do you think?
And you did that.
And I did that.
Wonderful.
And now we have, again, another community of support, people on the Bourne residents page that are chiming in, hey, I think this is a great idea. How do we jump on board? And we're now just starting this new release of Bourne Youth Council, where kids can submit essays and ask for things that would be beneficial for their community.
Do you connect with the community center for using the community center for activities?
Yep, so 2 weeks ago, Chrissy and Katie and I sat down and we had a wonderful meeting. They have so much passion behind them to do all the things that I want to do too, but not the resources to do it. So now,
Gee, that seems to be a recurring story.
right,
Yeah.
we don't have funding and we don't have resources, and we thought we didn't have people that wanted to step up to the plate, but what I'm learning is we have a lot of people that want to step up.
Everybody likes to be asked.
They just don't know how to get started.
Now, believe it or not, we're almost at the end of all of this. And so, what would you want to have people as a main takeaway on this?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, life is not easy. And if you can just take a minute to reflect, take a moment to find something that brings you happiness, because life is good has taught me you can't give to others what you don't have yourself.
Well, that has a lot to do with self-love, because I remember with my children, the advice that I gave them is, before you give yourself to somebody else, you should know who you are. So in other words, you should grow up first.
Yeah, I just figured it out finally a few years ago. It's crazy.
Okay, well, with all of this, I appreciate you coming.
Thank you for having me.
Lauren DeGregorio, and your business is?
So this was from E for All, but my business is O Places Spaces.
O Places Spaces.
Yep.
And that you can get in touch with you through Facebook and through
my website.
Through your website, and I want to congratulate you for the effort of what you're doing.
Thank you so
I
much.
appreciate you coming on here. So, folks, you've had an opportunity to hear more about what's going on in your community of good things, things that that might bring joy to yourself and to your children. So I hope you take advantage of that. This has been Bill's Bullpen, a production of Bourne TV.